And I know that's hard to do when you spend the night in some
Okay, I have
bad
30
weather,
minutes.
Okay.
some uncomfortable bleachers.
So I'll
We
give
were
you
almost there.
Okay.
when it's 30
All right.
minutes.
A couple more things about Carolyn before I let her come up. Her 3 years as a varsity softball player, their record was 69-5. Yeah. 3 years as a varsity basketball player, her last 2 years, 38-8. Two-time all-conference softball, two-time all-conference basketball. As I said, you know, the regional and sectional titles you see in the gym, Carolyn was a member of those teams. Second place in the state softball team. Her senior year in basketball, 21-2. Which according to the IHSA, it looks like that's the best record in GK history, boys or girls, for best winning percentage. Double-digit score in basketball, top hitter and fielder in softball. Her basketball team as a senior averaged 63 points a game. That's a lot. That's a lot. It gives me great pleasure to introduce for induction in the Hall of Fame, Carolyn Long.
Well, wow, that was quite a bit of a list there. I'm like, I'm thinking to myself, I did all that? You know, it's one of those things. Thank you, Jim, for all those nice things. Thank you, Phil, for putting this in the committee together. I was here 2 years ago when our 1986 team was nominated for the Hall of Fame too, and it's very humbling to be here, not only as a team recipient 2 years ago, but as an individual as well. So thank you very much for this honor, and as well as thank you to, or congratulations to all the other inductees as well. Since he's basically said half my speech, so this would be quick. So with all these accomplishments with our basketball team and winning multiple regional titles, sectionals, and tournaments, you know, those accomplishments also transferred over to the softball field, and it said that we also brought home a second place state tournament trip back. However, it's just not about one person. Is the old saying says there is no I in team. It takes teammates to push you, make you better, become a better athlete. And my teammates did that for me, and for that I'm very grateful. There's 4 other people on that court, and there's 8 other people on that field. So it's not about the I, it's about the team. And then, as Jim said, that after graduating high school, I went on to play basketball at North Central College, where I had a lot of successes and accomplishments and experiences. Again, that success doesn't happen overnight. I have coaches who have taught me the fundamentals, and it all started with Mr. Russell. I remember in 6th grade when I first started, he was my coach, and he asked me what offense and defense was, and of course it was Mr. Russell. I'm like, oh my gosh. Yeah, I reversed that, yes. But I did get it down, so thank you for that. But, you know, my teammates pushed me to be a better athlete, as my friends cheered me on as well from the stands. But however, none of this would be possible without the support from my parents. Thank you, Mom and Dad, for being here tonight, sharing this moment with me, along with my husband and my daughter, Marissa. And I'm hoping, as my daughter is entering high school, she has been traveling, doing travel softball for 4 years. She's been playing the sport, softball, for 7 years. I couldn't get her to touch the basketball. She cried at a camp when she was about 4. That really hurts, but she has a love for softball, and I'm hoping that she understands that the hard work that she has put in will lead her into some great things too, as you would Belvedere North. Thank you, Mom, Dad, for teaching me about hard work, dedication, commitment, perseverance. Thank you for running the 5 kids bus around. I run one around and I'm exhausted, so I'm not sure how you did, but thank you very much. Thank you, Dad, for taking me out to the barn, which is no longer standing. But thank you for taking me and doing those free throws late at night, playing catch in the backyard to make me a better athlete. I am who I am because of you, of your hard work that you have taught not only me, but your other children as well. Thank you for teaching me that time and effort that you put into a hobby, an interest, or a sport, or even my profession, that I do get results. Thank you for that. Thank you for this honor.
Before I introduce Mr. Peterson, Carolyn, Mr. Peterson Susan gave me something too, and I want you, both you and Susan, to know that part of what I say is coming from him too. And Carolyn was an athlete who always played well in the big games in softball. Her defense and clutch hitting were instrumental in helping us lead us to the state tournament. She had a batting average of .432 with 8 doubles and 2 home runs. I loved her work habits and positive attitude. Mr. Peterson gave me that. I'm sorry for the earlier that the memory is not as good as it used to be. And now to induct Brian Elliott, Mr. Lenny Peterson.
Again, the two softball players that are being inducted, Susan and Carolyn, congratulations. It was a pleasure coaching both of you over the years, and to all the other inductees. I, being kind of a sports nut, I listen to a lot of sports radio in the afternoon, and there's a show that comes on in the afternoon with a host being an ex-mayor named Tom Waddle. And in the intro they say, "I'm glad we had a Tom Waddle on our team." They go on and talk about his toughness, his dedication, and how he excelled at creating a situation that made all of the players on his team better. When I listened to this, I was reminded about someone named Brian Elliott, as he played on our level here at Genoa-Kingston. I was privileged to coach Brian for 3 years, 3 seasons in varsity basketball. Sophomore year is one where Genoa had the referendum problem and there was no fall sports and a limited basketball program. This kept his overall stats down some for many years, but Brian also held some records of assists in basketball while still scoring in double figures. He was most interested, however, in such things that maybe came off our plus-minus charts, things like assists, defensive charge, free throw percentage, and so on. All the things that are team-oriented. At the end of games, we always wanted the ball in Brian's hands to lock up the game and pressure free throws. In my 10 years of coaching the varsity boys there, no one put more time in than Brian in that. And I think that it's kind of been a lost art, free throws today, and Brian knew the importance of that. Brian was a coach on the court, running the offense, controlling the tempo. This is what all coaches long for and need for success. But Brian's not entering the Hall of Fame because of basketball only. He is entering because of football, basketball, and baseball skills that set him apart as one of our all-time top athletes. Brian played for Coach Hughes and Coach Russell in football. Coach Russell said, "After no football his sophomore year, Brian was our leader to bring the program back to being competitive again his junior and senior years. He was always our spark plug and always very coachable. Brian led us into the football playoffs his senior year. He had 8 interceptions during the season. In the playoffs against Byron, he had 25 tackles. He was our MVP, first team all-conference running back, all-Rockford area first team defensive back. Football was back because of Brian and the football class of 1986. During his high school career, he earned 9 varsity letters. Brian was all-conference in all 3, baseball, basketball, and football. And he even proved he could have been all-conference in track, as Mr. Russell borrowed him one day from baseball practice, took him over to a track meet, and he and 3 other guys set a record in a relay. So I could have been in track too, I guess. He was all-area first team in basketball, all-Rockford area in football, held the assist record for single season in basketball for many years. For Coach Sterling's baseball team, he was captain of the baseball team that went to state in 1986. He was a 4-year varsity starter in baseball, batted over 400 average 3 straight seasons. He was a Harry Hennigan winner as the top senior athlete. But to show what a winner he really is, he told me one of the things that he's the most proud of was his senior year. The football team, the basketball team, and the baseball team had a combined record of 51 wins, 13 losses, for an 80% winning percentage in all 3 sports. And believe me, he was a leader in all 3 sports. Brian was not only an honor roll student at Genoa-Kingston, but a national honor roll student for 2 years. Also an Illinois State Scholar. He had the honor of being selected to go to Boys State, which is only reserved for students of high leadership ability. After high school, Brian was on the Augustana football team that won the national championship as the top team in Division III college. He also played softball at a high level with the Rockford Red Wings, and they placed 5th in the national tournament. After hearing all this, you can see why Coach Russell, Coach Hughes, Coach Sterling, Coach Buzzell, and myself, and any other coach that Brian played for, we're really glad that just like the sports radio host said about Tom Arnold, we were sure glad at GK that Brian Elliott was on our teams. Newest member of GK Hall of Fame, Brian Elliott.
Before I begin, I'd just like to echo Phil's comments about Coach Buzzell. Wish him a speedy recovery, and to Jane and the Buzzell family, thoughts and prayers are with them. I want to thank the committee. This is quite an honor. Included with some of the names that already been before me, and this year's honorees, Pastor Friend, Danny, Susie, softball and baseball teams, and of course, this has been, I won't talk too much about it. She always gives me a hard time to go on one of my classmates. To have two of us in the same year means a lot to me. To start, from the second I put on a COD uniform to when I ended, everything I did was a team sport. And I played with a lot of good athletes, but to me, more importantly, I played with a lot of tough kids. Some are here tonight, and I would not be standing up here if it wasn't for my teammates. I just had an absolute blast the time I was here, and I thank them for all the memories and just everything we went through. It means a lot to me. Second, I'd like to thank this community. I had everything a kid could need. I don't think a kid could grow up in a better time and a better place. Two things that are important to me: a safe environment, a lot of people that care about me. And that's all a kid can ask for. Now, I also had the benefit of being in a sports crazy town. And I kind of put some thought into what my first memory was. And I remember it was the fall of '73. Shy of my 6th birthday. Of course, at that age, I didn't know what was going on, but I knew it was a big deal. And it was when the team that's in the Hall of Fame went 9-0, the '74 football team. And it was my first, but won't be my last family brag. My brother was the MVP of that team. So from then on, I could not wait until I had my chance to do what these teams did and what a lot of other people did, just to keep the tradition alive. And I don't think the '78 team or the '80 team realized how important that was to the younger kids, that we looked up to you and not wait until it was our turn. Carolyn, I don't know if you feel that way, but I know having older siblings and the success that this town had in sports, we really look forward to when it was our turn. There's some people I want to thank, and Carolyn mentioned a little bit, is the coaches you have when you're a kid. Anyone that's been a volunteer coach knows that the hours thinking the pay's not very good. And there's some names of some coaches I'd like to mention. Gary Kern, Al Price, Ron Stojan, and Tony Wild. They were my coaches as I was coming up in baseball and football. And I appreciate all the sacrifices those men made on behalf of me to make me a better player. And I really thank them and appreciate what they did for me. Kind of get an unusual circumstance playing sports in Genoa, that when I put on that Tiger red jersey in 6th grade. That was my first year of basketball, and I'm sure some of the guys probably wore those. So when I took off the baseball uniform my senior year, I only had 5 head coaches from 6th grade all the way through my senior year. And I'd like to mention those men, Coach Service, Coach Buzzell, Coach Sterling, Coach Peterson, and Coach Russell. Those were my coaches. That's all they knew. I also like to thank Coach Hughes. He was my assistant coach in football. And you can see I was pretty blessed. This cat led a charmed life to have those 6 men be my coaches from when I was 12 years till when I graduated high school. And I am forever thankful for them and everything they did for me. I'm going to tell a story. I know my wife's going to cringe, but I figure I got a captive audience, so here we go. You hear a lot about how much youth sports you take from that as you become an adult. And I think I've got a fairly good story that represents that. And I'm no embarrassed to tell it, but here goes. And if you've already heard it, I apologize, but I think it's worth telling again. So I'm going to set the stage. We were, my senior year, we're in the regional semifinals. And as we came in the bottom half of the 7th inning, we were down 7-2. Of course, we were down, and the other team to close us out brought in probably one of the better pitchers in the area to close us out. He had pitched the first 6 innings, but they brought him in the 7th to put us away. So he quickly retired the first 2 batters, and I hate to admit this, but there was a knucklehead on my team that took the spikes off, figuring the game was over. He had his tennis shoes on, ready to high school career was over, and unfortunately that knucklehead was me. So I'm sitting in the dugout feeling sorry for myself, and our Brad Quinn was our second baseman. He's our number 7 hitter. Got up, he was down in count, 1 ball and 2 strikes. So we were actually down to our last strike in the last inning. Brad battled, ended up walking. Our next hitter was Jim Moore. He bounced one down to third, routine ground out, and the third baseman threw it away. Our number 9 hitter, Mark Wagner, was a beauty. He got grazed by a pitch. The umpire said it's a dead ball, take your base, and he started arguing that didn't hit it. And I thought Coach Sterling was going to come down the third baseline and carry him down first, but he ended up going, so things kind of got interesting. We had bases loaded, we're still down 5. And David Miller, our leadoff hitter, came up. And you can tell the pitcher was kind of losing. I think he walked Dave on 4 or 5 pitches, walked in a run. And so it's now 7-3. We have the bases loaded, and anybody who's played any ball knows, bring the tiny run to the plate, we got a chance. And now the knucklehead, who was going to be on deck, had to get his spikes back on. And that was me. And of course, our number 2 hitter, Chip Claus, quickly, of course, was the first pitch. Single, scored 2 runs, and now I'm at the plate. I think my spikes were even tight yet. And so, yeah, 7-5, we had 2 guys on, and I walked. So I was on first base representing the winning run. My next teammate, Brian Lavender, I'm not really quite sure what he did, but he bounced the ball off the plate, kind of went no man's land, pitcher put it in his pocket, everybody's safe. Now it's 7-6. I'm on second. And one of my best friends who led off the inning, Tony Campbell, came to the plate. Well, everybody knows you don't want to make 2 outs in the same inning. And I remember thinking, I'll never hear the end of this. Here we are, almost come all the way back. And thank God you lined a pitch in the right center. I scored from second and we won the game. Being down 5 runs, 2 outs, down to our last strike and nobody on. The moral of that story is, you know, what I've taken it with me over the years is, no matter how bad things look or how bleak the situation is, you never take your spikes off until the game's over. And I have taken that with me ever since I was 18 years old. So it sure does make a difference. The things you learn as a student athlete, they stick with you as an adult. Lastly, I'd like to thank my folks. Anybody knew my dad, he was a sports fanatic. He missed any of my games, and I'm sure many of us in this crowd tonight either worn a Don Texaco, a Don Service, or a Don's Pioneer jersey. And I know Dad, when someone came to ask him for a sponsorship money, his only question was, how much do you need? And learned a lot of valuable lessons from my dad. Be generous with your time and your money. My mom, I wish I had $1 for every jockstrap, sock, practice uniform, game uniform that she washed over the years. It was amazing the work she did behind the scenes to have everything ready to go. It was clean and pressed and ready to go, folded out nice if I had a ball game the next day. So I'm very fortunate to have parents like that that did things behind the scenes and very supportive. So again, I can't say enough about them. So again, thank you everyone for being here, and Minnie, this is quite an honor. Thank you.
As tradition goes for the teams, we always have them stand up here. So all of the team for this 78 softball, would you please come forward? Okay. I was very privileged to be able to spend a couple of hours last night with many of these girls after the game. And I didn't know that Coach Hughes was going to let it out that it was a Hills tackle. But while we were up there, it certainly came as no surprise to me that the amount of success that these girls have had in their own lives and will continue to have in the future. They mentioned many attributes that they learned from athletics that they have incorporated into their own lives and passed even on to their children. Things like hard work, sacrifice for others, setting goals, and whatever it takes to have good attitude and success. This is why athletics is one of our best values for today's world when handled correctly. This group of girls, whose combination of great talent, hard work, positive attitudes, smiling personalities, set the bar high for all the other softball teams that were going to follow. Many of the players from teams that followed these girls have told me over the years that when they watched this team here growing up, they were inspired to excel at softball by watching the 78 softball team. When I look at this super good-looking bunch of girls today, I'm reminded of a little bit of a story that happened downstate. When we were down there, I took the lineup card up to the umpire to start the game. And I noticed when I handed him the card, he's looking over at our bench. And he looks at our bench and he says, "What do you do at Genoa-Kingston? Do you have a beauty contest where you pick the team?" I just replied, they certainly are good-looking ladies, but they can play too. Before I say some things about this team, I want to make sure I introduce these ladies. As I introduce your name, just wave to your fans. Okay? Kelly Brown. Kelly Brown was one of the quickest and best center fielders in GK history. In 1978, she hit .468, followed by .428 her senior year, where she had 4 home runs. Speaking of home runs, none bigger than the sectional one that I'm going to mention quite a bit about later. Kelly lives in Sycamore. Jeanette Golderman. JJ, as I call her, was a super second baseman, played a game with a lot of heart, always one of the best clutch hitters on the team, super player that was always smiling, 4-year varsity player also. In the sectional final, JJ had 5 hits and 6 at-bats. JJ came all the way from Austin, Texas. Jolene Blank, excellent third baseman, hit .403 her junior year. Held the school record her senior year with a .574 average, which stood for 22 years. Joe started on the varsity all 4 years also. Tremendous competitor. She now lives in Sycamore, but most of her life she lived in Genoa, where her sons were super athletes here at GK. Janine Glidden. Janine caught every game in 1978. We had a long list of great catchers over the years at Genoa, and Janine was one of the best, both offensively and defensively. She was super at blocking the plate. Back in that day, you could block the plate, and you didn't basically have to have the ball. You could block the plate. Today, you can't do that. She was great at blocking the plate, and she never shied away from contact. Great effort to be coming all the way from Virginia. Okay. Darcy Brown. Not only the best shortstop in Northern Illinois area, but also the best shortstop in the state tournament. She had great range at shortstop, making great plays on a regular basis. She was voted to the Associated Press 1978 All-State Tournament team. Darcy also played in Leonard all 4 years, and she came all the way from Tennessee. Two girls, Nancy Gustafson and Roberta Watson, were at the football game last night, but had commitments and didn't make it. Lori Anderson. Lori played every game for us in the outfield with great defense, and offensively, she was one of our most consistent and clutch hitters. Batted .531, which was the school record until Jolene broke it the next year. So she didn't get to hold it very long. Also was voted the great honor of being named Associated Press All-State 1978 Tournament team along with Darcy. Senior year, she was also voted our MVP for the team. Chris Cook. Chris Cook was a young lady who possessed a whole lot of power with a bat. She played only 2 years at Genoa, because from there she moved on to Oklahoma. We certainly wish she would have been able to play with us all 4 years, as she would have been a great force for us. Kathy Dreska. Every team must have good pitching to win, and Kathy gave us that each and every game. Her control was superb, able to throw to her spots consistently. Kathy pitched all 10 innings in our huge sectional win to get us to state. In the first game at state, she threw a shutout, where she threw very well in that game, and she also threw very well in the second game downstate, where she only gave up 3 runs, and we just didn't get her enough runs. Kathy has always lived in Genoa. Her sons and daughters excelled in athletics also. I also want to thank Jolene, JJ, and Kathy for helping me find some of these girls, and we had some conversations to round them up. So thank you for that. Other players that are, I think I got it. All right, other players that were on the team, I'm just going to mention their names because it's so hard for everybody to get here. You can see the tremendous response that we had from 4 different states, and I was just flabbergasted at their attitudes and being able to make it here tonight. Other players are Judy Price, Kathy Bennett, Schuler, Crystal Ingleson, Jackie Lahoyer, and Sandy Simon. 1978. 1978 was my first year coaching at Genoa-Kingston. I was at Sandwich for 7 years before that, so that kind of tells you how old I really am. I was actually, when I came here, I was supposed to be coaching track. That's what my contract read. So I wasn't supposed to coach softball. They had me down for track. But the very first day, Institute Day, the softball coach was Kathy Babel at the time. And Kathy Babel came up to me at the Institute and she said, I have a very talented group of young ladies. And she said, I'll be honest with you, I don't know as much about softball as I probably do track. And she was very, very honest in saying, maybe you could help them more. I hear you're kind of a softball nut. Well, yeah, I'm a softball jockey, so I said right away, I said, you betcha I'll switch. So I switched to softball from track, and it was the best thing I ever did. I probably, right now, if I think back, I probably can't remember what I had for breakfast this morning. But I do remember 41 years ago, in the spring, our first practice. We went out back at the old high school, and all it was grass. The diamond part was wet. The diamond was nothing but a PE diamond with holes with water in it anyway. We always practiced at the park, and the park diamond wasn't ready. We just went out in the grass area there, and we took some grounders and a little batting practice and did a few drills. I had never coached girls before, so I was a little tentative about things to start with. But all of a sudden, after that first day, quickly my eyes were open to their superior talent and their enthusiasm to learn. From there, I knew that we were going to have fun, number one, and have an outstanding year. 2/3 of the teams we played that year were AA teams. I say AA teams because it was only one class at the time, but they were all large schools that we played. Reason then there was 400 schools, 400 softball teams in the state of Illinois that were going to enter the state tournament. We finished the season very, very strong, beating our rival Sycamore, which was always a treat. The teams back in that day had to win a sub-regional just to get to the regional. So you had a sub-regional, regional, sectional, then state. In the sub-regional, because there was 400 teams in the state at the time, they put about 10 or 12 teams into that sub-regional. However, we were ranked high in that. We were ranked at the top in that. So we got 2 byes actually. And so we only ended up having to play 2 games in that. We beat Central and then Hampshire for the finals. So that moved us on to the regional where we beat Buzzell. And then we ended up beating a really good team, an Ottawa team, which we beat 4-2. So on to the sectional we went, where we defeated another very large school in Bradley, Bourbonnais, setting up probably the most unbelievable game I've coached in my many years here at Genoa. We were playing Rock Island High School, a school with 2,000 kids. And early in the game we committed 2 or 3 errors, which was very unusual for this group because they prided themselves on defense. In the start of the 7th inning, we're down 6 runs. And to top it off, our first batter grounds out. I can still see, and I'll never forget this, I can still see the Rock Island coach telling his girls to put the equipment, balls, bats in the bags. As they did. They were loading things into bags. But what happened next was quite astonishing. We loaded the bases with a walk by Kathy Schuler and a single by Janine Glidden, and a walk by Roberta Watson. Jeanette Golderman was next, and she hit an infield single to deep short. The shortstop was a pretty good player, but she made a very ill-advised play. She didn't have a play, basically, and she threw the ball to second. She threw it wild into right field, and on 3 runs scored, and JJ standing on third. Now we're down 3. Kathy Dreska then drew a very important walk. And then it was Kelly Brown's turn. Kelly Brown came up, and I can't remember on which pitch it was, but she hit a long home run to left field that tied the game. So it goes without saying now that if you looked at the Rock Island bench, they were scampering, getting their equipment back out of their bags. No one scored for the next 3 innings as both teams played outstanding defense, and we had great pitching by Kathy Dreska for those 3 innings to get us all the way to the 10th inning. We also had some fine plays in the infield by all 3 of our infields of JJ and Joe and Darcy. In the 10th inning, Jolene then led off with a base hit. Janine Glidden singled. Now we got 2 on. And Lori Anderson followed with a big base hit, which ended up the winning run. In the state tournament, Kathy shut out Fairfield in the first game to send us to the semifinals. I found this in the Pekin News, and I thought it was interesting. The Pekin News had an article about the tournament after the first game, and they wrote, even if Genoa-Kingston does not win another game in the tournament, they should be given an award for the best nickname of Todd, standing for City of Genoa School, as well as far being the best dressed team with their blue and orange striped uniform. To add to that, with a nice-sized crowd at the game, GK had the most fans attending while still being the smallest school. What a great tribute of support. Tribute of support, which I am sure contributed to this year's team's success. So yes, thank you, Genoa. Thank you for your backing of this team and all the teams over the years. These gals played very well defensively in the finals game. In the finals game, we were playing against the largest school in Illinois, or one of them anyway, New Trier East. They had 3,800 kids. We were sitting at around 400. But we played well defensively in that game, but offensively we struggled a little bit with the bats. But yet, going to the 7th inning, we're still up 2-1. But in the 7th inning, to get to the finals, New Trier got a double and a home run, and they end up being a 3-2. So it was a heartbreaking loss not getting to the finals. But what an accomplishment for this team of exceptional athletes, placing the top 3 or 4 over 400 teams. Congratulations to the 1978 softball team for a place well deserved in GK history.
Should we get him up here? Come on, Zeke. Zeke's going to be up here. He's going to talk about our 1980 baseball team.
Mr. Buzzell did some work before he had the medical attack. So this is what he wrote, and I've got a few things, you know, that I was going to say, and he'd be happy with that. So, first thing he had was he worried about a pastor friend taking too much time in the lectern. That was his first thing, but he found out that he didn't have to go through that. This team in 1980 really should have been playing for their second trip down to Springfield. If you recall, the 78 team, how many were on the 78 team? 3, 4, 5. Okay. And we were playing teams, obviously, that were way bigger student-wise than what we played after that. And we've been playing against New Lands. And we played it for like 3 years. I don't know, anyhow, in 78, does anybody remember the left fielder? Who was it? Have you ever seen a catch like that before? It was phenomenal. I've never seen anything like it. He was just, I don't know, 6 feet off the ground, perpendicular. I'm going, caught the ball. And the bases were loaded for GK. We would have, I think, obviously won that and won the sack. The sack. So, anyhow, Mr. Buzzell, on the bus ride home from the state tournament in the 80s, grabbed the ball from the ball bag, scribbled some information on it, and talked about the 1980 Class A state baseball tournament. Springfield, Illinois, Lanphier Park, Robin Roberts Field. In the first game, obviously GK and Matthews pitching beat Marissa. And then the next day, we were supposed to, you know, I think it rained that night, or maybe it was the night before, at Mount Carmel. And GK, I don't know, ran out of gas, I guess, is what he thought, and I agree with him. On May 15th, 1980, 319 teams in the state of Illinois began their quest for the Class A state baseball championship. June 3rd, 1980, the baseball team finished in third place in the tournament, the highest finish by any GK baseball team in school history. When Yogi Berra was managing the New York Yankees, somebody asked him what makes a good baseball team. Yogi simply said good baseball players. Well, Yogi was right. I was very fortunate to have a great group of baseball players in 1980, and that was obviously from Coach Buzzell. Players nowadays grew up in a different era than what you grew up in. Before the days of the cell phones and video games, young men were concerned about where their gloves were, where their baseball game was. I mean, it's completely different. Sometimes it's difficult to catch up with that. This team was an exciting team to watch. Today, when watching Major League Baseball on TV, you see home runs and strikeouts. This team would hit behind runners, hit and run, sacrifice punt, suicide punt, steal bases, and make unbelievable defensive plays. And I didn't remember this. We began the season by losing 4 of our first 5 games. Does that make sense? You remember that? Yeah, it's a false start. We then won 19 out of 20, had the longest winning streak in the state, 17 consecutive games. We never lost a game from April 30th through June 2nd. We outscored our opponents in that stretch 139 to 42. Our athletic director at that time was Fran Noyes. He set up a very demanding non-conference schedule. You guys played Sycamore, DeKalb, Belvedere, Grace Lakes, Dundee, Crown, Rockford, Auburn, and Cary Grove. Our team also benefited greatly. Guys talking about me, I don't want to hear it. I don't want to hear it. So I'm going to skip that. Well, it wasn't bad, but I mean, I just didn't want that. We began the state tournament at Marengo Regional. We beat Harvard, Stillman, Valley, Marengo, and they were good teams. The Marengo sectional, we beat Aurora Central 7-5, and Providence, New Atlantic 7-1. These were 2 exciting games, and we played really well. It's a great job by them. On our trip down to Springfield, 2 of those. Let's meet some of the players. Pitching was, we had 2, I don't know, Bussy here. The pitching was phenomenal for Genoa-Kingston. And I remember the first game we beat Marissa 3-0, and then Mount Carmel. You came in from center field a couple of times, didn't they, Lindsay? You and Don. Okay. Kurt Decker, a 4-year varsity catcher, led the team with 461 average, 36 hits, 32 RBIs. And then the coach at Burlington Central was very frustrated with the fact that nobody could get Kurt Decker out. So they walked him and then picked him off first base. Rick Potts was the captain of the infield, shortstop, hit 413, 30 stolen bases. And they called him, and I don't know whether I should even say this, I didn't write it. Springfield Journal, bearded shortstop, hamstring injury. So, other infielders, Jimmy Skeppers. Okay. It's hard. Kenny Moore. Kenny's not here. Outfield, Randy Wild, obviously is here, hottest hitter at that particular time. Clayton Johnson, great defense, also hitting well. Rick Atkinson here. Doug Shear is definitely here, very versatile player. Russ Point is here. Bob Bush, no. Dave Ramsey here. And then we had one baseball player that passed. Rick Thompson. How many years ago was that? It's been a while. Okay, on behalf of the 1980 GK varsity baseball team, I want to thank the GK Hall of Fame Committee for this induction. And I'm glad, and I haven't seen a lot of you in 40 years. That's just the way it is. Not today. So, they were very
Hi, Coach Buzzell. Thanks for coaching us and getting us in the Hall of Fame. I hope you're doing well, or getting better anyway.
Great.
Hey, Coach. Sorry you couldn't be here to see us. Certainly love to. Thanks for all the notes. I'm glad you had that put together. Certainly had a great year, and it was just good to see these guys. It's a great event. I'm sure I'll see you soon. It was great seeing you in May around the ball yards, but we'll see you again soon. Thanks.
All right, just wanted to say, Buzzy, we were thinking of you. Just wanted to say thank you for everything you did, and hope you get well soon. Thank you.
You got it. Coach, hey, miss you a lot, buddy. Hoping you get better, hope you get well. Loved all the years we had with you. I didn't appreciate you sending Steve Sterling to talk about us. You'll find out later. Thanks, buddy. Get well.
I gotta add one more thing. And the whole team thought that maybe Buzzy should have came in.
Hey Coach, just want to thank you for all the years of coaching. Wish you well, and hope to see you very soon. Thank you.
How are you? Good to see you.
Coach, hey, thanks for coaching us all the way from 7th grade to our senior year. We had some great teams, had a lot of fun. No matter what you hear about us, we were not at Hills last night. So no more wind sprints and no more extra practices. Thanks, Coach. Take care.
Coach, Lindsey Wilson here. I'll never forget everything that you did for us as basketball as junior high. We had the best times, 7th, 8th grade. You were a great coach. And in high school, of course, we had wonderful times, and we just wish you the very best. Get well soon.
All right. Hey, get well soon, Buzzy. You know what you did to us tonight, right? We had to listen to Steve Sterling the whole night. So get well soon so we don't have to suffer through that again. Good luck to you.